What's up guys, Manu here and welcome back to my channel. In a previous video, I talked about the Honda XR250 being an awesome platform for a vintage supermoto build. And I did mention that I basically grew up with the XR line. In this video, I'll be telling you about a dinosaur of an enduro that I have owned for a very long time, and it's this bike right here. This is a Honda XL600R, the fastest dual sport motorcycle of the mid-80s. This one is a 1983 or 84 model, the first year that this bike came out. This one is actually older than me because I'm 37 years old and the bike that I have is actually 39 years old. I've had this bike since 2012 and I enjoy riding it so much that I have to put it aside for my own safety. But when I do ride it, I always have one hell of a time, may it be on the streets or in the dirt. Prior to my acquisition, this was in a storage unit under a leaking roof for 10 years, so that explains why this bike looks so beat up. Well, of course, after all the years that I've used it. When I got it, all I did was clean the carbs, change the oil, added fresh gasoline, and that's about it. Since then, it has gone through phases of weird transformations from stock to scrambler wannabe, and even as a poser desert racer, and at one point it became a supermoto. I used to ride this bike every day for work, and on weekends I go up the mountains for some dirt road action, but nowadays it just sits in my garage waiting for that next ride. One of the things that I really like about the XL600 is the seat. It's very low, 33 inches off the ground, and the seat itself is generously padded, great for all day riding. As you can see here, I stand at 6'1" and I can easily flat foot both feet on the ground with my knees still bent. Even though this bike weighs at around 145 kilograms, I would still be willing to take it into slightly more technical mountain trails due to its low seat height. Controls are very basic with light switches on the left and a kill switch on the right. All of these buttons, especially the light switches, are practically useless as of now because I deleted all of them. For the handlebars, I currently am using a knockoff fat bar with a mid-bend and mild pullback on top of its riser adapters. This is probably the best handlebar setup I have to date since it allows me to move forward and back, which really helps in the bike's handling. Speaking of, suspension and handling is, well, ancient. We have a pair of 41mm Showa non-adjustable front forks with 9 inches of travel, and a Pro-Link rear shock with 8 inches of travel. The suspension still works really well considering I haven't serviced it ever since. Front wheel is a 21 and we got an unusual for an enduro 17 for the rear. With this combination, the XL600 has an unusually very long rake, which makes going in and out of tight spaces a bit difficult, but extremely stable on straight roads, even with the worn-out steering bearings that I have here. Cornering at high speeds on tarmac requires some serious body weight transfer. Keeping that front end in place while also managing power delivery to the rear requires some anticipation, as it tends to break traction at deep lean angles. But on dirt roads, the stock suspension is pretty good at absorbing most of the bumps and does a really good job at keeping the bike planted. Not the best I have experienced in all of the motorcycles I have ridden, but it is certainly one of the most entertaining bikes that I have ever ridden. Putting this bike to a stop requires a bit of effort though. The front has a tiny disc brake and barely has enough stopping power. Recently I have replaced the brake master cylinder, caliper, and upgraded to a steel braided hose, and so far it's doing a lot better than previously. The drum rear brake is probably my least favorite of all. It's too tiny and has barely enough stopping power, which requires a bit of engine braking to make it stop faster or to lock the rear tire. This, however, is easily remedied with a longer brake arm for added torque and range of motion to the brake shoe squeezing with the hub. Now for the good part. The XL600R is powered by a kickstart-only 589cc air-cooled 4-stroke single overhead cam 4-valve single-cylinder engine fed by 2 carburetors. This engine produces 48 horsepower and 53 Nm of torque. Pretty impressive numbers for a motorcycle of that time. It has a top speed of 167 kilometers, which I have not confirmed yet on my bike because since I removed the speedometer when I first got it. But I do believe it can because I was able to pop a 5th gear power wheelie while being followed by a KTM 398 running at 130 kilometers per hour. As you can see here, this engine has seen better days and could use some TLC. Yes, I know I should have those gaskets fixed, but honestly, it doesn't really matter to me because I have plans of rebuilding this in the future and I'm not riding it as of now. White smoke started spewing out 3 years ago, which means I need to really change the piston rings. Despite how it looks with all those leaking gaskets, this engine has never been opened ever since I got it. I have been riding it in this condition for the past 3 years and still runs like a champ. Alright, it's been 4 months since I last fired this up. Let's see if it does now. As expected, even with stale gas in the tank and the original spark plug, this bike is as reliable as an old hammer. That's it for this video. If you have an XL600 or XR600, feel free to post your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. As always, see you next time. Bye.